Okay, recording started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. This is our monthly San Diego Cppinsights Meetup. We're running it over a bit more than 6 years. Um, Already started like March 2019. And we meet here every month to just share knowledge about C++. I'm located in San Diego, but this is a group that is open to everyone on the planet. So it it it's open to everyone. So we do have people outside of San Diego. So I welcome you. If you are new uh, to the group, first of all, everyone can hear me and see the slides, right? Just uh, just let me know. Otherwise, yes, no, can see the slides. Can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Perfect. Thank you. So, if you're new to the group, your first time showing up in the meetup, welcome. Super happy to have you. Uh, the idea here is to just share knowledge. Sometimes I'll bring speakers. Uh, we had few of them in the past few years, but it's mostly me and others in the group that are sharing knowledge. And really my sole intention is that after 1 hour of discussion, you'll have more knowledge in C++ than you had before. That's my goal. So just about a bit about myself. My name is Kobe. There is a book, and I have physical books. If you are located in San Diego and you would like to grab a book from my home, please let me know through the Discord. There is a updated Discord link, and I'll paste it at the end of the meeting, maybe throughout the end of the meeting, just in case you want to join. Uh, so Dorothy Kirk, I was the technical reviewer of this book. If you are interested in this book, I have about 4 or 5 copies. My opinion, it's a great book. Dorothy did a great job writing this book. So feel free to approach me either via Discord or LinkedIn or any other way that you see fit, and we'll get that ready for you. Um, there's some people that already picked it up. So I had two CPP cast long time ago that you can listen, uh, back with Jason Turner. Uh, okay, first of all, a huge announcement. We have a new sponsor for the meetup, and I'm super happy to have them. I keep advocating for JetBrains and specifically for C-Line, which is a C++ IDE, which I think is an excellent IDE for developers. It's all battery included, and obviously today there are AI plugins, and they have their own plugins, and there are other third-party plugins that you can use. Um, Everything that I do, both in my workplace and at home, is all with C-Lion, and it's a great tool that helps you to work with CMake debugging, um, anything under the sun. So it's a very powerful tool. So thank you, JetBrains, for sponsoring the meetup. If you need coupons for Sea Lion, uh, right now I gave the last coupon yesterday. So but I'll get new ones every month or two. They're giving me another new one. So let me know if you want coupons, and I'll yeah. So catch me through either Discord. Discord is convenient, but any like LinkedIn or anything else like would work for me. Okay, so and uh, I'll just keep a queue of people that are requesting, I'll provide you the coupons. Okay, so every meetup, I'm trying to give you some news about what I see, and I see a lot of things that I'm tracking C++ community on a daily basis. Um, the the book that I'm reading right now is C++ Memory Management by Patrice Roy. I think it's an excellent book. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm reading it. It's the thing that I really liked is that it's really the cutting edge knowledge that we have in the community today about C++ memory management from A to Z. That's one thing. It has references to the C++ core guidelines, which I really liked. Like if you're thinking about like small things like should I have a self-assignment in assignment operator, like these kind of things that I didn't expect to see in the book. It has all the discussions that are linked, not directly linked, but because I'm familiar with the C++ core guidelines, I used to teach them, but they are also um, they're just included in the book, and I really like the fact that it is advocating for the last best practices of the what the community thinks about anything, including C++ memory management. Um, I haven't finished that, but I'm just extrapolating what I have, like 70, 80 pages towards the rest of the book. I just extrapolating the way it's written. I bet this is going to be a successful one. So we have coupons for the book from Packet. I have a lot of relationship with Packet, so they gave me few. And I put it in Discord. If you can find it, just reach out and I'll give you coupons. I think this is I'm reading the soft um, like the ebook soft copy of that, but uh, yeah. So if you really want that, just let me know. And you can find the coupon. Just let me know. I'll give it to you. Okay. Agenda. We have queues. I'm gonna speak about AI assisted like Cursor and other plugins in CLion because people ask me. So in Discord, and I said, okay, I'm not gonna write. It's too much to write, but I'll have like a 5-minute spiel about what I think happening with the AI assistant. And please feel free to chime in if you want to. And then we'll talk about our AI. If you don't know what our AI is, by the way, the book talks about it, but this is I prepared the talk before I start reading the book. If you don't know what it is, no worries. We'll talk about it. And we just my intention is to go and just touch on various topics in C++ around our AI, but there's all kinds of side talks about C++. So hopefully we can learn more things about that. So let's start with a one quiz, just a couple minutes, just for a warm up. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just share the quiz one. 1 second. This one. Okay. C++ 23. We have a base derived. We have a derived D. We have base B, and we have either we have a C out of type ID equal to type ID. So B to derived. So what do you think? So what these are the options. Okay, okay, 1 second. So these are the options. I don't know if you can see it when I click on that. Either there's an output, compilation error, undefined, or implementation defined. What do you think? Is it going to compile? 1. Let's see. So it's going to be 0. It is compiling. Okay, but why 0? Like before we click that, the derived class, the type ID of derived class, and B, derived doesn't have virtual. The base doesn't have virtual function, no virtual function, no virtual destructor. Maybe that might be it. Okay, let's take a look because I can remember. So it's 0. B is a reference to object of type derived. We can see that here. But it has no virtual functions. So there is no runtime type information. Oh, yeah. So there is no runtime type information for that. By the way, the book talks about runtime, RTTI, and similar. So the type ID of B returns the base. It's not the derived. So this is why it's false. Very tricky. Let me see. This is difficulty 1. Interesting. Okay, so let's go back to, let's go back here. Let's let me share again. Okay, so as I mentioned, I can't remember the name, sorry about that. If you are here, just give me a shout out. Someone asked me, or not me, just asked about, I can't remember what was the discussion on Discord. And I'm doing a lot of what we call today vibe coding in the past 6-7 weeks. And few things. I do it in CLine JetBrains product. So there's plugins of few companies. I also tried Cursor AI. It's an idea. It's a fork of VS Code. And so let's first talk about like what does it provide. So there is tab completion. There is all kinds of modes. Different plugins and different IDEs would have different modes. But there are modes where there is an agent where you kind of have conversation with, providing context, providing maybe spec, and I'll explain more if you're interested. And then it's either generating code or modifying an existing code. So it's very intrusive in terms of like what it does to your code. So, and I tried it with C++ in all kinds of code base complexities, and also Python, also existing and also new frameworks that I needed to write, and I tried that with AI assistant. And I'll say a few things. One, I'm scared because it's very good, and it's only going to get better and better. So the networks will get better. We would know how to use them well. Like when I started 6 weeks back or 7 weeks back, I did very kind of obvious mistakes about like how to correctly prompt, and I got like pretty much very poor results. But I got better. I read a lot of articles and got better of how to do it correctly, and I'm getting very good results using these tools, in the sense that I can take maybe a month worth of work and I can squeeze it into a day, which is impressive, I think, because that's a huge productivity gain, and I think this is only going to get better. And the reason I'm scared is that it's very, very good, and I don't believe right now it's going to replace developers, but my opinion, this is all like my own opinion. I think for a very for senior or very senior engineers that they know a lot of domains and they know everything in their domain and they're working on that domain with AI assistant, this is going to supercharge them. Like it's going to be very, very it's gonna do very, very, it's gonna provide very good results for them. Junior, however, would need, there's a, if you are a junior and you don't know to evaluate what the AI provides, it might be tough. Like maybe initially you get something, but how do you assess if you need performance and all? Because they do mistake. They would do mistakes. In C++, I saw cases where the AI would return accidentally, like there's some complexity, would return an address of an existing stack allocated variable. So I would notice that while I'm evaluating the code that it is providing. And in Python, I'll see maybe something which is inefficient, let's say with Docker, and I'll point that to their model, and the model would fix that. So you need to be familiar in order to get something more than just a prototype, but kind of a long term. So I think this gap between junior and senior is something that I don't know how we kind of fix that. I'm using it for pair programming, DAG debugging. It's basically like you have a junior assistant, and for a lot of my Python code, I'm basically barely writing Python. I'm mostly writing documents that would be consumed by the model, and the model will generate code. And then I'm iterating over that, letting the model itself generating documentation that would be used for incremental development. So there is a cycle where I create an initial spec, which is long. It takes me time to write the spec, and then I'll feed it to the model. The model will generate code with documentation, like a markdown, and what I figured out was that you can ask the model to create sequence diagram and UML diagrams that would you feed it back to the model in different chat sessions, different prompts. This is also kind of another discussion. And it would use it to improve the framework more and more as we go with our prototype, and you get a very good results. So it is very impressive. Like we live in a very unique time, in my opinion, and it's all just the past few months, I think, where this whole thing got accelerated. That's it. I don't know if anyone else has any other experience and would like to share. Anyone using, like, on daily basis, using AI assistant in your IDE? I'm not talking about Copilot where it's kind of on the side. I'm like integrated into your IDE. No? Okay. Try it. Yeah, try it. Very hard to go back.
Yeah, I'm not using it yet. I'm curious. Actually, my main intent for starting to use it soon would be feeding it a legacy code base and then getting some unique insights on dependencies, performance, optimization potential, code removal, these kind of things. Do you have a pointer regarding these kind of?
Yeah, you can do that. Different networks can do different stuff. So, for example, 4.1 that was released, yesterday, I think, is and it's amazing. It's like available in a lot of agents now, and like they say, it's very good in programming. I use the cloud 3.7 Sonnet 1.
Mm-hmm.
So and Honestly, it's really hard for me to say like whether one network is better than the other. I need to really experiment with the same input, and but it's so I'm kind of sticking to 3.7 right now. Maybe I'll try 4.1 in the next few days just to see how it feels. But uh, it what I suggest you do is you ask the model to have memorized, let's say memorized diagrams, which I think is very common, uh, on chunks of the code. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this would help. So what I do is I create documents and I feed it back to the model. I obviously evaluate the diagrams, making sure that like I need to know about the code. But if you know nothing, it is a starting point for you to look at the diagram and to start looking at various part of the code, just making sure the diagram's fine, feed it back to the model to do more stuff on different parts of the code that interact with the already analyzed one, and so on and so forth. Uh, I think the secret sauce is to be very like to understand like how to do prompting well, and I'm still learning,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I used to do just simple prompting, and it's not working well. And I then went to a different approach where actually I'm writing documents with Markdown, for example, and adding that to the context of the model And I'm very careful not to overload the model with context. So I'm keeping that to smaller features, and I'm creating a new session of the model every time I have a new feature. That makes sure that the model is not confused. And this is something that you'll hear a lot from the companies that are actually developing the tools about like best practices of using the model.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so let's talk about RAII. We have about 40 minutes. It's not a lot of time, but I'll hopefully get to the main parts. I wanted to write an RAI. RAI is resource acquisition is initialization. It's the most important concept, in my opinion, in C++, with the worst marketing term ever. And one thing that I was reading, I think I was reading yesterday in the book that I mentioned, is that some people say that the best feature of C++ is the closing curly braces, basically scope end. Why? Because when the scope end, a lot of things would happen in terms of distractors running. Okay, so what did I want to do? I wanted to make it a template. So I wanted to make it reusable. I want T that would be a resource that the RAII template would own it. And I would like to have a function that would do something when the distractor runs on that T. So function, that would be a template parameter. And I wanted to compose that to like one class would own this RAII object. So I wanted to have this exercise and to see what would happen and what can I extract from that, like all kinds of ideas for the meetup session. Okay. So I started with a very simple implementation that you can see here. There is a T, there is a func. Constructor is very simple, and look what happened in destructor. If I have a function, I can call resource. That function is something that is evaluated to Boolean. Let's say get and the get functions are they're not important, so you can ignore them for now. Okay, so this is a start. You could basically have I'm just noticing. Okay, so you can basically have a function, a template function on the constructor. Not having stood forward, I'll explain very in a nutshell what's because it's a different uh, session. Uh, Why? Because I'm instantiating with one function, but I have another one. I have another one that I'm using for the constructor. It's not usually what would happen, but that's some flexibility that you could have. So I mentioned that initially there is no stood forward. Stood forward is a way. It's basically a way to have a forwarding. This is a forwarding reference. It's basically a way to preserve the uh, value category uh, of the parameter. And why this is good? It's good because in some cases, not all the time, it can just ensure there's no unnecessary copies. And this is really a whole different uh, subject, but I wanted to show you the option that you keep in mind when you write template classes and you have template functions. There is a small subtlety about what is a forwarding reference and what is not. So this, for example, if I had a double ref here, this would not be a forwarding reference. So this is a subtlety that people keep bringing up when they, because it's a really common confusion in the way forwarding reference behave. The fact that you have a func ref, that func is basically a template parameter of the class itself, not the function, doesn't make it a forwarding reference. And this is something to remember. It's just an R value reference. But if you have a different function, a different template parameter on the function, then yes, this becomes a forwarding reference. And there are some advantages to have that. So it's good to have, not necessarily needed for all the cases, but it's good to have that as well. Okay, so let's try using it. So I have a handle, doesn't really matter what it has right now. And I have some function that I would like to run in destruction time. So I'm going to do something very naive right now. I'm going to take the RAII class, and I'm going to have, I don't have any template detection. I'm not talking about that in this session, but if you want to go and figure that out, there is also template detection, like CTAD, what we call class template argument detection. I'm not talking about that in this specific talk. So I have RAII, I have handle. Handle is a type, and I'm passing some function. Some function as a template parameter, and also pass it as an argument to the constructor. And what I want to do is I want to have handle maybe distracted or some specific handling at the end of the scope. So that's basically what would happen when the class RAII is hitting, when the runtime hits this curly braces, everything that is on the stack would have a destructor, or the destructor would be invoked. Like this is primitives would not have that, obviously, but class types might have them. The destructor might be empty, then nothing. It's basically an OOP. So you can see that there is an issue here, and the issue is very, very simple. I'm passing some function. Some function is not basically a type, right? We're expecting a type, but we're passing some function. Okay, so what do we need to do instead? Let's pass a type. So we can basically have a type instead, right? But before we do that, let's have a small side talk about what else could work beside this very simple thing. What can work instead with this RAII? So instead of having a function here, which we'll fix in a few slides. Let's say I have a stud function and I'm passing a lambda. The lambda has a parameter, which is the same as the stud function here. So stud function, basically, it's a class type of in the standard library. And you'll hear people talking about type erasure and all. It doesn't really matter here. But what happened is this lambda is a function. It's just internally the compiler is creating an object. It doesn't really matter. It's a callable object, right? And when I pass it to the constructor of the RAII object or RAII type instance, it would be kept as a function, and this would work. So what would happen at the end of this curly braces, when curly braces is here, when the runtime hits curly braces, the RAII destructor would be invoked, and this function would be invoked. So if the file is open, we'll print something, and we'll close the file. Now, this is not the best example because I picked input file stream, which is an RAII object by itself. But let's say I want to print something before. So I want to do something additional to file.close. If you don't need to do that, input file stream is already an object type that is RAII capable. So it is closing. I'm sometimes seeing people calling close function. They actually, the input file stream is aggregated in some class, and people define destructor of this class just to call if stream or the file stream, or it doesn't really matter if it's any stream, and they call it close. And this is redundant, and you don't need to write destructor for that, because that would guarantee to happen when the class destructor is invoked. All the members destructor would be invoked. Fclose the file close would be invoked as well. So this works. Okay, so why our thing would not work? First of all, another kind of a side note: what happens if we pass incompatible functions? If we pass incompatible functions, for example, I'm passing I want to have a stud function that returns void and accept an integer, and I'm passing something that returns void but accepting a character. You'll get some cryptic of not matching. It's not the best compile error, but you'll get something that you can guess that this is not compatible functions. We'll see how we can improve that. There are a few ways to improve at least the error messages. Okay, let's go back to this error that we had when we tried to just pass some function. So as I mentioned, some function is not a type, right? Yeah.
Also, you said that the dot close is redundant.
Sorry, come again?
The file dot close is redundant.
Yeah, the file close here is redundant. This one, like the if stream by itself, like if I had an int main input file stream something, and I open the file, the file close would happen. So I'm saying that this is like, I don't want people to think that input file stream always need a RAII, like a special handling of RAII. That's what I'm trying to say.
Then is there use case for file dot close?
If you want it earlier than the end of the scope, so you definitely want to file that close, and then you're good, because the bit would be, there's a bit that would say, okay, this file is closed. So if stream would not like try to close something which is already closed. So you should be fine.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do decltype. right? Decltype should work, because then now I have a decltype on some function. This should work. But I'm getting this. So why decltype didn't work for me? Why I have this cryptic error of I have a function as a member. So what it says here, I have a data member of RAII, void handle, func, which is invalidly declared as a function type, which is here. This is the code, but this is how the compiler sees that. And this is very, very confusing, because I actually created the type from a function. Why the compiler is confused? So let's think, can a function type be a class template parameter? Like, is this going to work? This is like a simplified approach of what we're trying to do. I have a template function that has this function pointer as a data member, and I'm doing decltype of hello. Why wouldn't it work? Okay, so this is where there's some subtleties in C++. I basically memorizing this stuff. There is no other way, at least that I'm familiar with. Okay, so decltype hello evaluates to int. Okay, so this is something that we inherited from C, like how function looks as types. So it's not a function pointer. It's a type that returns int, and there's one parameter which is an int. So decltype hello evaluates to int and not int star int. So if you're coming from C, you're probably saying, oh, obviously, because when you either type def things, when you type def things or you dealing with function pointers, you have the return type, and then you have a pointer like a star, and maybe when you type def, you have a name for this entire function. It looks very, very cryptic in C and C++, right? C++ just inherited that. There's some ways to make it a bit more sane. I'll show you. Actually, I'm showing you here. Instead of having a cryptic type def, but it's not a pointer. Okay, so one way to solve it, and this is solving the whole error, is to make it a pointer. So decltype some function is not a pointer, but when I'm writing that as a member, I'm actually adding pointer to func. Basically, I'm taking this, let's say int and making int star int, and this works. Okay, so some of you would say, okay, what about decltype of ref, of like address of some function? It works, so no need to do anything else. So if you want to fall back to just the thinking about, oh, I'm going to take an address of, then it's going to evaluate to a pointer of a function and not int, for example, or something like that. So that also works. Okay. Okay, I'm now going to elevate the complexity a bit, just to show you another not very common feature, but kind of important to at least know and remember, just back of your mind, when you write C++. So I'm not changing the RAII type, so it's still func. But instead of decltype of some function, I have two parens. Why would it matter? Like, why this looks like a mistake? And I bet, like, if you look at C-line has what I really like in C-line. If I need to kind of have the best features in C-line, the the built-in clunkd engine that gives you clang tidy errors. Like when you write with CLion and you have all the battery included and all, right, you know, when you write, when you look at the code, or it's either your code or some other person code, you can tell immediately what is going to compile, what are the errors. It's like going to the last bits of syntax. So sometimes you'll see clang tidy, and actually CLion, they have their own analysis on top of clang tidy. So sometimes it's clang tidy, sometimes it's CLion engine will tell you this is a redundant parent. This is not a redundant parent what I'm showing you here in decltype. This is actually something else. Okay. So the first time I actually bumped into this syntax, which is like the part where it's really important, where in effective mode in C++, which I can't remember from the top of my head, like which year it was released. It's talking about C++ 11 and 14. So probably around 15 or end of 14 or something like that, or maybe just a bit before. I had the pleasure to be in few sessions of Scott Meyers. I admire the person in terms of his knowledge in C++, and his content is amazing content that he created. So there is a chapter in effective mode in C++. By the way, if you don't have the book, grab it. This is still a good book, even if it's not C++ 17 and above. It's just 14. It still has a lot of fundamental basic blocks that you need to know. Okay, so x equal to 0, x is the name of the variable, so decltype x is integer. But wrapping the name x in paren yield an expression more complicated than the name. This is copied from the book, where x is an L value, and C++ defined the expression x to be L value as well. Okay, so decltype of an L value is therefore int ref. So putting parentheses around the name can change the type of the decltype that the decltype reporting for, which is, you might say now, this is kind of amazing. When I was reading that, and back then when I was reading, I think I was reading the book right when it was published, like over 10 years. I was very confused, still very kind of digesting C++ 11 and 14. Like, why would you have that? So C++ 14 has support for decltype auto, and decltype auto on the return type, you can think about it like a forwarding reference on the return type. Okay, and again, if you don't understand enough about forwarding reference, it's a different session that we need to have. But go and read about forwarding reference, like the advantages of having that. So this having decltype auto and returning x versus returning paren x change the return type that you have in each function. On F1, it's going to be int, and in F2, it's going to be int ref. So pay attention when you're using decltype auto, especially decltype auto and paren in wrapping your variable, and you need to extract the type. So that's something that I wanted to make a huge note, because it does work with what we needed, but it's not really obvious. So one of the things that I use in order, I don't know if it's clear enough, hopefully yes. What I really like to do is, if I have some doubts, I'm using Cppinsights.io. This is by the way maintained by Andres Ferdig, which he gave a couple talks here in our San Diego C++ meetup. So take a look at the decltype with the double paren on the left hand side, and the right-hand side is what the compiler sees. And you can see the compiler sees a ref. Let me see. So yeah, so you can see that you have an RAII and you have a void ref handle just because I had this decltype with double paren. Yes, someone raising their hand. I can't hear you. I know you're muted. Okay, so I'll continue. You can just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so without going into because we have 15 minutes left, without going into a lot of more details about this decltype auto, I have some good blog posts by author, and I have few other at the end of the slides deck, so you can go ahead and take a look at that. But there is a very nice table of how it's going to look like. So decltype, so the auto decltype x return x gives you t. Decltype of double paren x and return paren x would give you tref, and so on and so forth. So it's interesting to see. I think one of the things that at least when I was reading Scott Myers back then, I just made sure that I don't have, like, if I have an extra paren, I know why I have this extra paren, especially with extracting with decltype. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. So that's just another, without going into a lot of more explanation. This is something that I actually found while creating the slide deck. So a few weeks ago, or maybe 3-4 weeks ago, there was an article about Meta, like Facebook. A Meta engineer saved 15,000 servers per year just by fixing a single character. And Scott Myers' book has at least a couple chapters on deductions, like template deductions and auto, and the differences between them. So if you look at x and y, x is equal to 0. If you just have if you assign x without auto, it just copy. If you have a ref, it's gonna ref it. And the interesting part, the part that people are usually confused of, is that if you have a function to return a reference and you assign it to auto, it's gonna make copy. But if you assign it to auto ref, it's gonna be a reference. The thing that is really confusing is with pointers, because if you return a pointer from a function and you assign it to auto, if you have an auto or auto pointer, in both cases it's a pointer type. But the good practice rules say, even though it's pointer, whether or not you put star, put asterisk, put the star, because it actually makes things more like easier to reason about when you're dealing with const. It's kind of outside of our session here, but it's kind of confusing because the way auto behaves where you dealing with references versus pointers is different. With pointers, auto would always be a pointer. In reference, it's not the case. So that's, and then we also have auto ref, which is a forwarding, like it has a forwarding reference rules. It's another complexity of C++. I'm just the messenger, by the way. Okay, so I'm gonna skip this, but this is all kinds of examples of what every expression would end up with, right? So here's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th line says here decltype auto, and then you assign I, but I is a reference. Then it is int ref. So it's very interesting, but very confusing. This is C++. Okay, we already talked about it, so I'm going to skip this one. Okay, let's improve the code. We have about 9 minutes to improve it. So one way to improve it is using all kind of type traits. I can basically make sure that if someone is passing something that I'm not expecting, I can have usually a better way to convey that to the user via compile time errors or maybe assertions, static assertions, not runtime, but static. So I want func to be invocable. So I can use, there are a few tools in C++ today. One is enable if, like this is what we call SFINAE. This is what you see here. But we also have concepts. So there is a stud is invocable where you can have either on the functions here, you can see on the template constructor, you can also make it part of the class template itself. Because instead of having type name, you actually have the concept itself. So concept is something that we got in C++20, and it's something that would help you to better convey an intent and have maybe better compiler errors. There is a price of some, your team would need to catch up with this kind of a more complex feature to use, but it might worth the effort. So this is where I said you can actually, instead of the type name here, you can have the concept as part of type. This is the C++20 syntax. This is another way to improve the code by, if you're trying to pass something which is not, like you have one type of function in your template instantiation, but a different one in the constructor, you can check if one can be assigned to another one and have a better error emitted. You can do it with RAII, or you can do it with concepts. I want to reach GSL finally. So this is basically an example of having something which might not be assignable. So I'm going to skip. Okay, static assert is something that is still useful if you want to have any preconditions in compile time. For example, is f assignable to func? So that's something that you can also have if you don't want to deal with SFINAE, if you don't want to deal with concept. This is another tool. Already mentioned concept, so I'm going to skip that. Okay, I already talked about it. So this is a slide about stud forwarding, why use stud forwarding, and this is, I already discussed that, so I'm gonna skip that as well. I wanna hit GSL finally because I have 5 minutes. So GSL is the guided support library. There is the GSL Lite, and there is a Microsoft GSL, and this is at least the Microsoft GSL, and I think also the GSL Lite is actively maintained. So this is a set of utilities that are super helpful if you want to adhere to the C++ core guidelines. So if you go to your favorite web search, if you're still using web search or using models, AI models for that, and you just search C++ core guidelines, you'll get a huge markdown file that it's one with all of just internal links with all the guidelines that is maintained by Herb Sutter and Bjarne Sturtrup. So GSL has a lot of utilities that are implementing the core guidelines. One of them, which I really like, is GSL finally. So I already talked about CLine, about all kinds of features. C-Line has a very good support on with Conan. So Conan is a package manager. So if you're coming from Python or any other package language with a package manager, Conan integration with C-Line is pretty much amazing. So you have a way to go and say, okay, I would like to have this package, just like you do with pip, and PyCharm, obviously, of JetBrains has the same functionality, but with pip. So you have the same with Conan. By the way, there is also VC package, but I'm showing here Conan because I'm familiar with Conan more than VC package. So just a couple clicks, it's integrating the library that you would like to use into your CMake environment, and it just with a couple clicks you have you don't need to install anything manually, you don't need to do anything. It's pretty amazing the way it's working with C-Line. So some people say, okay, C++ is really hard. I wanna take Boost, I wanna take gzip, I wanna take OpenSSL. It's hard. Conan makes it easier, and Conan with C-Line makes it seamlessly, easily. So this is the setup. I'm in my target link library. I'm just having Microsoft.gsl, and when you click on the Microsoft GSL in the C-Line UI, you have instruction on exactly what to do. Like you have this CMake find packages. You have these couple things that you need to do already documented. It's really easy to use. So what is so nice in GSL? So GSL finally gives you a utility that you can define in some place on your scope, and it would run at the end of the scope. So you don't really need to do anything fancy. You just need to use GSL finally. So here's an example. I have this cout of cleanup. This will always be executed at the end. So the program would say doing some work, exiting the block early, and this cleanup function would be invoked. This line would never be executed because I'm returning here. So GSL finally is something. So just think about your code, like how many times you wanted to execute something at the end of the scope, and you wanted something very simple to do. And most of us, what we would do, if we don't have GSL in our project, we didn't bring it via Conan or fetch content or whatever, you usually write like an ad hoc class that would be an RAII kind of a class. There is a kind of an alternative to GSL FINAE, which is unique pointer. So you either write your own RAII or you utilize unique pointer. Unique pointer is a way for us to have something that would be invoked at the end of it's movable only, and it can invoke a deleter, a custom deleter at the end of the scope. So this is an example where I have a unique pointer with file. I'm opening the file and I have an fclose. Fclose would be invoked at the end of the scope, but you can use it as a generic custom deleter. By having custom deleter, you can have a generic GSL finally like. So here's a unique pointer, and I'm passing a file deleter, which is happen to be a lambda. And basically, this is a way to have like an RAII with unique pointer. GSL finally, it's kind of more generic. And here's another way. It's just less repetition. C++20. Okay, so this is something that you can have as a kind of a generic way to have a unique deleter with unique pointer. Jumping to C++20. C++20 has this nice captureless. If you have a captureless lambda in an unevaluated context, you can have a decltype on them, and it works. It doesn't work before C++20. So here's a way to create a unique pointer deleter where you can pass the function as fclose. I'm doing an fopen. Fopen, the file star would be kept in the unique pointer. So this is a generic way to use unique pointer with RAII. This is the last example that I have. Again, with unique pointer, I have some resource that I want to keep, and I have a function that would do something with it at the end, and I'm just creating the resource here in the first parameter argument that I'm passing to the parameter, and then func, which is just the function that I'm going to use, which is basically a lambda. So keep in mind that unique pointer is an RAII that manage resources. That's one thing. GSL finally kind of a generic way to have something that being invoked at the end of the curly braces. And the third thing is you can always create your own RAII. There's some things that you need to remember, especially if you want to make it generic. If it's just an ad hoc, it's probably going to be easier. But if it's going to be generic, you need to think about all the use cases. I have a lot of resources here, so I'm going to post that slide deck in our group, so you can take a look at that. But that's it with what I had for today. Hopefully you learned a few new things. There's some various levels of complexity here. There's some very easy to kind of more harder things, just like the decltype that I mentioned with the decltype auto. That's it. Any questions?
Why does decltype seem to have such a terrible reputation? I've heard not very good things about it. I haven't used it myself yet, but from what I've read is that a lot of people don't seem to like it.
The problem that we have, and going back to the AI discussion, is C++ is very complex. Like, I need to memorize a lot of things. I said it many times in order to either read or write code. And I think AI would help us to overcome the complexity. That's what I think. And the C++ is very complex. That's one of the things. And I'm reading, like I'm reading the subreddit messages on a daily basis. There's CPP questions and RCPP and all. And I understand when sometimes people say I'm trying to learn that and it's hard. I can understand that. There is no other way but just to invest time to get it either memorized. There's some stuff that you need to remember how the standard is dictating something, and just that it is what it is. Some stuff they're making more sense. I don't know like what was the reason that paren actually, like there is probably a reason. Like we need to go and read the paper, which I haven't read the paper, like why this is changing. But it's probably there's a lot of important, and you can see there's a lot of important, like if you want to forward declare the return value, I think there is no other way today, I think, just to have decltype auto and return it with a paren surrounding the return value. And I'm just a messenger. Okay, thanks everyone. See you next time. Catch me on Discord if you need anything. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Kobe.
Thanks. Take care.
Yep, you too.